Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy. Without any further interruptions, enjoy the What If. Chapter 5 Meetings and Alliances. The female figure in the trees above her prey moved with a commanding presence one would have only seen in only the most determined of shinobi in Kumo. The vessel of the two-tailed Nibi cat demon, Niyugito watched the two below her for several hours now with a sudden interest in the pair. Her tenant at some point during the stalking of the one known as Kenpachi informed her that her demon brethren was in him and that the vessel was strong. Very strong. Yugito was surprised by this as she had never seen another demon vessel like herself in the world before now. She had only recently heard how the one-tailed raccoon was sealed in Suna's new cage and was beaten by another demon vessel, though the name was never given. So this is him, Nibi, thought Yugito, wondering how strong the boy really was despite his young age. Yes, I can feel the fox's chakra even from within you. You are so used to mine that you can't sense the difference between his and mine until you get closer to him, said the Nibi cat demon, shivering secretly at feeling the presence of Zangetsu, as it had been a long time since they had seen each other. I'll observe him a little while longer before I make myself known, thought Yugito, not ready to get into a conversation with the fox vessel. However, just because she wasn't ready didn't mean that someone else was going to bring her into the light. It seems we have a fox watcher in the trees, thought Zangetsu, sensing the person's hidden chakra signature and sensing something different about it. Who is it this time? Is it Akatsuki again? Thought Uzumaki Kenpachi while still walking physically on the outside of his mind. No, it's someone else, who is like you, thought Zangetsu, smiling at the sheer fact that his vessel may not be alone in his travels as they had originally believed. Damn, and here I thought I could get some action, thought Zaraki Kenpachi, slamming his fist into the ground, creating a large quake and crack in the landscape of the place in the boy's mind. Just because she's just like me in terms of holding a great demon lord doesn't mean she is friendly. For all I know, she could be a ninja sent by another village to kill or capture me for research or weapons purposes. Kami didn't create copies of the old man and put them in positions as a cage, so I doubt that this one's cage was as kind as the third was, thought Uzumaki Kenpachi, keeping his wits about him. How do you want to handle this? Thought Zangetsu, knowing that first impressions are everything when meeting someone. Whoever this person thinks he or she is, they believe that I can't see them. Let's shake a few trees and so just WHO or what falls out, thought Uzumaki Kenpachi, smiling evilly in his mindscape and physically, though it was hidden due to the mask. While you do that, I need to leave your body for a short while to take care of the plan we discussed the first night on the boat. It wasn't easy considering I'm still bound to your body via this seal, but I was able to save the dying boy from total death and secure him in a demonic realm meant for putting things were in limbo. I need to leave to check up on him to make sure he's not dead, thought Zangetsu before getting a mental nod from the boy before fading out of the mindscape. Great, just great. Now I'm stuck here by myself, thought Zaraki Kenpachi angrily, as he got off the ground and started practicing with his sword on things that he manifested on his side, the boy's mind that all three of them shared. Sound village at the moment. Again you failed me, Kabuto. Why should I even keep you around anymore if all you do is keep failing me continuously? Said Orochimaru, who was now angrier than he had ever been before since his old teacher sealed both of his arms into the Shinigami during their final battle against each other. I can still feel the phantom pain from that moment even now, thought Orochimaru, as he clenched his fist to block it out and focus on an injured Kabuto, who had a hard time healing his injuries due to the nature of the attack that hurt him and killed the Sound Anbu team on the mission. I apologize for the failure 1,000 times over, Orochimaru-sama, but it was not my fault as the vessel's power far exceeded my own. The Kyuubi inside of him changed his appearance and made the boy stronger than anyone else around him. Even Itachi himself was cautious against him, said Kabuto, finding the injuries were harder to heal than he thought since the wounds were made by chakra they would fight with his in terms of wanting to heal his wounds. Itachi was nervous around the boy, you say? If that is true, then Akatsuki will soon see me as a threat for interfering and try to kill me when they feel the time is right. On the other hand, they are not faring so well on gaining all the 9 beasts together like they wanted and are behind schedule, said Orochimaru, who was now deep in thought at the moment on how to approach this. What does that mean, Orochimaru-sama? Said Kabuto, wondering what his master was planning in that mind of his. Nothing you need to know about. All I can safely assume is that Sound Village is safe for now, along with myself for that matter. Fortunately, I know where the boy is headed due to my own spies in Iowa I sent in several months ago, who were also part of the team sent to investigate where the Kyuubi vessel is, said Orochimaru, who was glad that he had sent that spy team into Iowa when he did. Where is he now, Orochimaru-sama? Tell me and I will retrieve this time, I swear it, said Kabuto, only to be silenced by the glare the snake Sannin made to his right-hand man. No, I need of you here, Kabuto, despite your increasing failures. As for the Kyuubi vessel, he is currently right now in water country trying to see the daimyo and the Mizukage. I don't know what that brat's plans are, but they are not a threat to me at the moment, so I want him left alone for now, said Orochimaru, noticing the shocked look on Kabuto's face. But what about using him for future experiments to achieve immortality, Orochimaru-sama? Said Kabuto, wondering why the Sannin was turning his direction away from the fox. We have no one to spare or the resources to do it. We have no access to a proper port and we have no allies or contacts for our ninja to go into Kumo to get to water country. I can barely replace the Anbu I sent you on your mission as it was, and now they are all dead except for you, said Orochimaru, seeing Kabuto bow his head in shame again at the mention of his failed mission. What do you wish of me now, Orochimaru-sama? Said Kabuto, wondering what new assignment the man may have for him. Nothing for now at the moment, you fool, and certainly not in your condition with all of your wounds not healing properly. Get them fixed up before coming to see me tomorrow for recruiting new ninja into our ranks, said Orochimaru, now waving his right-hand man away from him, which the glasses-wearing boy graciously did. Water country with Uzumaki Kenpachi. Yugito cursed herself for being careless, not realizing that the boy before her could have possibly sensed her, even when she thought that he, or rather his tenant, couldn't. It was her fault that she had forgotten that all of the nine-tailed beast could sense each other no matter the seal in place, as their chakras were similar yet different in terms of power. Instinctively, Yugito jumped from her tree high above, seeing it, only second later, fell down with a loud crash, as she landed in another tree. Damn it, said Yugito, looking down at her attacker only to find he wasn't there, only the fox girl, who just waved at her like all was right with the world. It wasn't until she heard a jingle from a bell behind her that she started to sweat in worry. For someone who supposedly has a demon inside of them, you're not very fast when it comes to moving, said Uzumaki Kenpachi behind the woman, who turned around and saw the boy looking at her with that scary-looking mask. How did you move so fast that I didn't sense you? Said Yugito, leaping to another tree to keep herself at a safe distance while her Nibi chakra was starting to flare around her. It's not my fault you are scared out of your mind at the moment while and weak when compared to me in terms of power. Now as long we're asking each other questions, why are you even following me? Said Kenpachi, resting his sword on his shoulder waiting for a response. I saw a trail of dead bandits and thieves, which got my demon curious, so she told me to follow the blood trail to the source of the one who spilled it, said Yugito, pulling out a kunai should she need it for a battle with this masked kid. And you saw me, you just assumed by the massacre I created earlier that I might be one of the members of Akatsuki, right? Said Kenpachi, tapping the flat side of his sword on his shoulder. I did at first, but then I saw that you did not wear their standard clothing of red clouded black cloaks or their straw ceremonial hats. After that I decided to watch you until I could determine just who and what you were from the shadows, said Yugito, letting her demon's chakra give her further strength to intimidate her opponent. Spoken like a true ninja. Trying to look underneath the underneath, as they call it, but I assure you, Yakiru and I are not a threat to you since I have no grudge against Kumo at the present moment in time, said Uzumaki Kenpachi, putting away his sword, seeing a potential ally in the woman. You think I'm working for Kumo? Said Yugito, lowering her power slightly, wondering if the boy was being honest with her in not being a threat. Though she had a feeling it was the other way around. You wear their standard ninja uniform. Are you telling me you left the services of Kumo and have become a missing ninja? Said Kenpachi, looking at her curiously, wondering if she left for similar reasons he did. I left because the third Raikage is retiring soon and his successor wants to use me as a mindless weapon and put a collar seal on me that will bend me to his will like a pet. The soon-to-be fourth Raikage is a pig of a man that sees me as a creature meant to serve him until I am useless to my village and his fantasies. The only reason that he was even remotely considered to be the third successor is because he's the second strongest person in the village, not counting the third, who was getting on in his years. Not only that, but 2 of the members from Akatsuki started to chase me recently and try and capture me. I came here to save my village and myself from that dreaded organization's wrath, said Yugito, getting a nod from the masked warrior, who seemed to understand more than she thought. Truly a noble thing you did, former ninja of Kumo, but such a move will have drawbacks to making such a choice, said the masked Uzumaki, looking down at Yakiru, who once again waved at him as all was right as rain. I know I can't go back to Kumo, and I do not want to as long as that pig of a man is the Raikage of Kumo. I had hoped to start somewhat fresh here in Water Country and fix the problems popping up here. I figured it would get me some recognition with the Mizukage and a new life in Mist itself, said Yugito, knowing that if one village isn't treating you well, move to one that will. You don't want to enlist as a Mist ninja right now either, since both he and his brother of a daimyo are both pigs in a way we both despise in people, said Kenpachi, jumping off the tree and landing lightly in front of Yakiru before picking the girl up. Well, I can't stay a missing ninja forever, said Yugito, jumping down from her tree as well, not believing that she was discussing this with the kid, who looked several years her junior. No, you can't. However, if you team up with me and Yakiru here, I think we can help each other out so that the Mist Village and Water Country for that matter are no longer having problems. You in? Said Uzumaki Kenpachi, extending his hand to her, which the woman looked at for a moment before accepting, knowing she had better odds against her foes if she was with someone like her. I'm in for now, but I don't babysit little pipsqueaks like the one on your shoulder, said Yugito, looking at the pouting girl, who stuck her tongue out before at the female demon vessel. Pussy-chan is just jealous Ken-chan is stronger than her, said Yakiru, getting shocked looks from both Uzumaki Kenpachi and Yugito, who looked flushed red with both anger and sheer embarrassment for hearing such a nickname being given to her. What did you call me? Yelled Yugito, ready to strangle the little fox girl, who along with the kid just laughed at her nickname. I think she meant in terms of her nickname for you being cat-related, since you hold the 2-tailed cat demon inside of you, said Zangetsu, appearing beside his vessel, done with his previous business and literally scaring Yugito up another tree. Who the hell are you? Said Yugito, as her anger flared around her in the form of chakra, both hers and the demon's, as she landed on the ground yet again. My name is Zangetsu and I am the boy's demon that lives inside of him, just like my old friend Yoruichi is in you, said Zangetsu, seeing the shocked look on the woman's face. So you know, huh? Been a long time, hasn't it, Zangetsu? Said Yoruichi, now appearing in similar fashion that Zangetsu did, only leaving a small trail of fire as she did. Yes it is, and you're still a show-off as ever. Trust me when I say that this kid won't sell you out to anyone, and that he's probably the only person who will fight for a friend with everything he has, said Zangetsu, giving off a chuckle before he went back inside, with Yoruichi nodding before doing the same in re-entering Yugito. Satisfied, miss? Said Uzumaki Kenpachi, waiting for the woman to tell him her name. Ni Yugito, and yours is? Said Yugito, imitating him in asking for his name as he did for hers. Uzumaki Kenpachi, at your service Yugito-san, said Uzumaki Kenpachi before bowing his upper body slightly, with Yakiru simply waving at her, not really knowing the whole thing about formality. And the runt on your back? Said Yugito, having forgotten the fox girl's name. My sweet and innocent adopted daughter, Uzumaki Kusanagi Yakiru, said Kenpachi, who saw Yakiru smile at her cute smile that could melt almost any heart. It's so nice to meet you, Pussy-chan, said Yakiru, making Kenpachi sweat drop, while Yugito face planted onto the ground at the nickname before getting up with her face now all red. Stop calling me that, said Yugito, while Yakiru just laughed at the woman's discomfort at the nickname, not realizing it could have implied something else. Ken-chan, Pussy-chan is yelling at me, said Yakiru, switching from happy mode to sad mode, making tears appear in her fox-like eyes, which made Ken-chan go into a very angry person mode. It would be wise to not make Yakiru cry, for when she cries I get angry, and when I get angry I get the urge to kill whoever made her cry, said Kenpachi, letting out some chakra pressure that brought Yugito to a standstill. There is so much pressure coming off his chakra I can barely stand, much less breathe right now, thought Yugito, knowing if she had been weaker and without Yoruichi she would have collapsed from the strain of Kenpachi's might. When Kenpachi released the chakra pressure, Yugito found herself breathing heavier than usual, which didn't go unnoticed by the young warrior. We should get moving and head for Wataga to see the daimyo so we can get his permission to join Mist Village, said Kenpachi, seeing the woman's expression of curiosity in what he just said. You want to join Hidden Mist? Why, you said it yourself, they are a bunch of pigs. Why not slaughter them both and be done with it? Said Yugito, not understanding the boy's unique, not to mention strange idea. I know Yugito-san, but I won't risk having loyal followers of both those two hounding all of us should that happen. As much as I would like to hang those two by their intestinal tract, I have something better in mind for the two bastard brothers. It would be even more convincing if I had your help in the matter, Yugito-san, said Kenpachi, knowing that the word of a stranger and his nicknaming fox of a little girl didn't have much credibility. What's in it for me? Said Yugito, knowing that if there was a payoff in the end it had to be pretty freaking huge to get her to back him up. How does being the new Mizukage of Mist sound to you? Said Kenpachi, getting a very surprised look from Yugito, who looked like she was about to either faint from shock or face plant because she thought the plan was stupid. Excluding the reward for her, of course. You mean become the water shadow of Mist? Are you nuts? Said Yugito, hoping the kid had a plan or else she was jumping ship right now. No, I'm just saying if the plan works out, Mist will have a new cage, who will get rid of this stupid civil war that's going on, said Kenpachi, explaining the situation to her and the plan to pit the two brothers together, thus allowing them to be taken out when they were at their weakest. So you think they are the ones that caused the whole thing? Said Yugito, wondering why the bloodline civil war started in the first place. From what information I gathered on the civil war from the history books in Konoha's library that I read a few years back. It all started not too long after those two reached the once respected titles they have now tainted. All we need to do is get enough information to prove it and expose it to the people of Water Country, and they will cease this fighting and be a united country once more, said Uzumaki Kenpachi, getting a nod from Yugito, knowing that such unity could help her if and when she became the new Mizukage. Just remember, Uzumaki-san, when this is over you will address me as the Mizukage, all right? Said Yugito, hoping this kid knew what he was doing. No problem, just remember, when I start my own village you will refer to me as the great and powerful Shikage and we form an alliance with one another, said Kenpachi, smiling at the woman behind her mask that was nearly parallel to his mask. Go Ken-chan, said Yakiru, thrusting a tiny arm and fist into the air while Yugito just sweat dropped at the girl's antics, wondering just how the fox child was going to develop in the future. It could be worse, I suppose, thought Yugito, leading them to Wataga to see the daimyo and to carry out their plan. Not too far away, Rin left the sanctuary of her average size yet still concealed home to look for some herbal plants to make medicine she might need for the people that came to visit her. When they couldn't afford to go to the capital of Water Country's expensive hospital that charged outrageous prices, Rin secretly set up shop in her own home, giving what help she could to the suffering that needed treatment. After the Kyuubi attacked Konoha and the Yondaime died, sealing the beast in a boy, she couldn't take the growing losses anymore. She didn't know if she would have hated the boy containing the fox, but she wasn't sure she would want to help him either. Now here she was living a life of self-exile, healing the sick and the suffering using what medical skills she acquired during her ninja training. She shamefully admitted to herself that it was fortunate that due to the chaos within Mist that her skills weren't rusting away like some shinobi do when they take such exile. As Rin picked some of the rare herbs she saw growing, she thought back to the days when it was her days on old Team 7 and how they did all those crazy D-ranked missions that all genin hated. Poor Obito had to use his Sharingan just to prevent the daimyo's cat from mauling him when it was caught, thought Rin, thinking back to that one D-ranked mission after Obito got his bloodline limit active after the dangerous mission prior to that one. Look Ken-chan, there is a tattoo-faced lady near that tree, said a girly voice, clearly that of an innocent child, which surprised Rin greatly since innocence was not something you would find in Water Country. Looking up more at the direction of the voice, Rin saw a well-built boy or man wearing a fox-like skull on his face with spiked hair with bells on the very tips of the tallest ones. He wore black with different lines of blood red along other parts of his clothing, and he reeked of blood from a fight several days old, judging by the way the wind picked up his smell, sending it in her direction. Who are you? Identify yourself, said Rin, wishing she wasn't in a simple housewife-looking kimono of navy blue and gray coloring with her weapons back at the house. The name is Uzumaki Kenpachi, former ninja of Konoha. The fox girl on my shoulder is my adopted daughter Uzumaki Yakiru, and the woman with a kunai in hand behind you is Ni Yugito, formerly of Kumo. What is your name? said Kenpachi, getting a shocked look from Rin, who never sensed the woman behind her. The name is Rin. Inuzuka Rin, and former ninja of Konoha, said Rin, hoping it would give a reaction in which she could gauge these three people before her. Though the one with the mask was possibly the scariest of them all. Inuzuka, as in that flea-covered dog clan that thinks more about marking their territory than it does about its friends, said Kenpachi, slightly irate at hearing the last name of the dog clan whose one member he despised so much during the Chunin exams, trying to take his former dream away. Even Yakiru seemed to scowl slightly at the name, if her mood from her chakra was any indication, though considering she was part fox could have been a factor. You dislike my clan, said Rin, feeling that she should show some loyalty to them even though she knew they would probably not return it. As much as a cat hates taking a bubble bath, said Kenpachi, seeing Yugito hiss under her breath, not liking that one bit. You said your last name was Uzumaki, correct? I heard that last name some time back when the fourth was still alive, said Rin, eyeing the boy under her calculating eyes. If you are referring to my parentage, we should talk inside your home, as the woods have many ears that will receive lots of money for the knowledge of what I suspect you hold, said Kenpachi, before nodding quickly to Yugito, who put away her kunai to show she was not a threat either. Follow me. I have a feeling after this I'm going to need a lot of sake, said Rin, who got a cheer from the Yakiru girl that gave her the nickname, Doggy-chan, due to her markings for the Inuzuka clan. Though upset at first, when Rin found out what Yugito's nickname was, she realized the fox girl could have given a worse nickname. Rin's house minutes later. Despite being small on the outside, the place was big on the inside, and Kenpachi, Yugito, and Yakiru all agreed it was nice to be indoors for once after being outside for so long. Before I tell you anything about the Uzumaki name, could you remove your mask so I can see the face of the one who claims to be the son of that woman, said Rin, knowing that even though Uzumaki was not a household name in Konoha or anywhere else, the person could be an imposter. Yugito herself was suspicious of what the boy looked like without the mask and silently wondered if he was scarred under it or quite handsome. Either way, I'm going to find out, thought Yugito, watching with some anticipation as the young boy looked at the girl on his shoulder before slowly removing his mask. Rin gasped at the face that was now before her, as she recognized just who exactly sired this boy into existence from the way he looked. Aside from the whisker marks on his face, the slit-like eyes, and the eye patch on his right eye, he would just like Sensei. Wait, whisker marks? Sensei or the woman never had such marks on their faces ever. So how come this Yondaime look-alike clone does? Thought Rin, seeing Kenpachi hand over his mask to Yakiru, who held onto it until he needed it again. Yugito was finding it hard not to blush as she found the face of her newfound ally and fellow demon vessel to be downright handsome. If only he was a few years older or I was younger, thought Yugito, cursing her luck at being born sooner than the boy. I take it from the look on your face that you just confirmed your suspicions about who my parents were. Care to share this information with the rest of us? Said Kenpachi, as he looked into the wide eyes of Inuzuka Rin. Damn, I was hoping to tell the boy myself later on. If he gets angry, his chakra will spike beyond cage level and will draw people from all over water country along with all the other countries to this place, thought Zangetsu privately to himself, wishing that he had more time to tell the boy himself. Yes, I knew your parents. However, before I answer, I would like to know one thing to confirm another suspicion about you. What is your date of birth? Said Rin, hoping those whisker marks were not what she thought they were from. October 10th, on the day the Yondaime sealed away the nine-tailed fox, sealed at the cost of his life. Why? Said Uzumaki, Kenpachi eyeing the woman carefully, wondering what the Inuzuka was going to say. It's as I feared. You are the demon fox's vessel, said Rin, before seeing Naruto's one visible eye narrow and his hand reaching for his sword should he need to use it. You feared. My dear, you don't meaning of the word, much less the term, until you've walked a day in my sandals the instant I could walk. Whatever horror you suffered on a mission or in Konoha is nothing compared to my life growing up, said Kenpachi, as he now gripped the hilt of his sword firmly. It's not that I hate you for holding the fox, it's just that your father wanted you to be seen differently in that regard, said Rin, knowing had she not just said that, she mostly likely would have been a headless corpse. What about my father? Who was he? Who was my mother? When I was younger, the people spoke the name Uzumaki, they said it with hate, but not just because of me. It was for another reason, wasn't it? Said Kenpachi, snarling at the woman, who no doubt knew the secrets he so desperately wanted to know about his family. Your mother's name was Uzumaki Kushina, who came from the land of Whirlpool, and your father is, said Rin, though she couldn't bear to tell him if what he had just told her was true about his life growing up. I'm going to say this only once. Who is my father? Said Kenpachi, getting very upset with the woman to such a degree that Yakiru leapt over to Yugito for comfort. Your father's name is Minato Namikaze, also known as the 4th Hokage of Konoha and my Junin sensei when I was a genin, said Rin, looking away in shame at not being there for the boy growing up. Oh shit, thought Zangetsu while getting a similar reaction from the spiritual sword form of Zaraki Kenpachi, knowing that the shit hit the fan and it was time to duck and cover. Surprisingly, the state of Uzumaki Kenpachi in terms of reaction was surprising, as well as disturbingly calm, though his eye not covered by the eye patch was filled with rage and the eye patch on his right eye was sparking chakra, meaning it was being force-fed a great deal into it at the moment. Excuse me for a moment while you three stay here. Don't move, said Kenpachi, looking back at the worried and scared trio before leaving them for the outside, as they were now wondering what the boy would do, though they had a pretty good idea. Is it true? Said Yugito, trying to ignore the weight on her left shoulder while looking at Rin. Every word I just told him was the truth, and I think because I told him I hurt him more than anyone else he knows, said Rin with a saddened look on her face, only to freeze in horror as a blood-curdling scream outside the house hit their ears and an intense amount of pressure of chakra hit them like one of Tsunade's punches to Jiraiya. Only this time this power was worse. Damn you, father, yelled the Uzumaki Kenpachi outside, as the inside of the house started trembling at sheer force of his power, his eye patch blowing clear off, as it could not longer feast on the amount of chakra being fed into the tiny mouths of the patch itself. Rin, Yugito, and Yakiru dared not try to move as the floors cracked, the windows were destroyed, and the whole house itself was shaking like it was in an earthquake, shaking the building down to its very foundations. What's more was that the rage, the pain, and the betrayal that the Fox vessel felt was felt throughout the elemental countries, making all who felt from Iwa to Akatsuki tremble. In Suna at the moment, Gaara nearly collapsed from dehydration from sweating, and not just because of the desert heat, as he felt the echo of this monster that had now been unleashed. It is times like this that I am grateful to whatever deity showed me mercy and gave me a friend like you, thought Gaara while hearing his demon Shukaku slightly howling in his once tormented head, almost picturing running the psychotic creature running around in a circle. In Konoha at the moment, various reactions came from the people of this once great hidden village that sired the greatest Hokage of its time and his son that would become its destroyer. Those that supported Naruto, though the minority was not so much minor anymore, as the younger generation of Konoha were no longer listening to their parents in that regard. It seemed that the hatred for the boy would die with the older generation and only a small few from the younger that still followed them. When the hidden village felt the intense rage from within the large and vast power of the chakra-enhanced pressure, it frightened everyone, as they thought the Kyuubi had returned to kill them all. They went to the Hokage herself to try and reason with the demon, only to be kicked out and sent to Ibiki and Anko, who took great enjoyment of their work. That and a significant pay increase, considering they were also affected by this animalistic force of nature that seemed to make even Kami himself tremble in fear. For Sasuke, he could tell even without his Sharingan just who that power belonged to, as he had felt that rage in his fight at the Valley of the End. Only now it was more intense, more hate-filled, and more powerful than Sasuke had ever felt in his life. Naruto, when the time comes, not even your demonic chakra will save you from me, and when you die I'll not only take the title of Hokage from you, but the Hyuga girl that loves you too, thought Sasuke, thinking of various ways to make the Hyuga heiress submit to him like all were meant to before an Uchiha. Uchihas were invincible, and Sasuke have every intention of making everyone remember it. Back at Water Country, it took a moment for the rage of one Uzumaki Kenpachi to calm down, wondering why he was never told. Why his sensei was never told, or if the backstabbing Tem even knew of such truth. Did the whole village secretly know and just say, screw his father, thinking they were invincible and wouldn't face punishment in the afterlife? Why didn't old man Hokage try to protect him more? Did he somewhere in his aging heart hate him too? Many of these types of questioning thoughts ran through Kenpachi's head like Lee in his runs around Konoha if he were on a sugar rush with his weights off. When this is over, my questions will be answered and a lot of heads are going to be removed from their bodies. I swear it, thought Uzumaki Kenpachi before forming a Rasengan and slamming it into a nearby tree, making the wooden creation of life explode into 1,000 pieces. That one tree was just a sign of the violence that would be created by Uzumaki Zaraki Kenpachi, that would be the future death shadow of the hidden Shinigami village. Walking back into the house, he saw that Rin and Yugito were on their knees, shaking from what appeared to be nearly being crushed to death by his overall assault. Yakiru was still standing up, though she was breathing heavily for a moment, and though she seemed to be straining to stand, the young girl looked up at him, concerned. "Are you all right, Ken-chan?" said Yakiru, surprising her father even more, along with the two still struggling to stand up, wondering why the girl asked such a question. "I'm feeling better, Yakiru." Sorry Rin-san for that small outburst," said Kenpachi, though he didn't feel like he should apologize for anything. Small outburst. What happens when it's huge? Thought Yugito, with the Nibi cat demon Yoruichi sweat dropping in the back of her mind. It's alright Kenpachi-san, I just never expected so much power to come from you all at once, said Rin, feeling like her legs were made of jelly for a moment. "Here's your eye patch," said Zangetsu, appearing behind Kenpachi and handing it to him before the fox vessel put it over his right eye. "Ken-chan, was the leafy place you live in mean to you?" said Yakiru, now on his left shoulder again, as if that was her special spot in the world around the tall boy. "Yes," said Kenpachi, simply not wanting to go into it any further. "Well, if they're your enemies then they are my enemies," said Yakiru, as if it were the simplest thing in the world. "Whatever you say, Yakiru," said Kenpachi before smiling at her and scratching a spot under her chin, making the girl giggle and purr at the treatment she was getting. "So Uzumaki-san, Ni-san, just what brings you to Water Country anyway?" said Rin, in the hopes she could get some information in regard to their travels. Yugito looked at her fellow demon vessel, wondering if he should answer her, since this would be a touchy subject. She heard Kenpachi give off a small grunt, and a smaller jingle-like sound from his bells was briefly heard. How they stayed on his head after his outside performance Yugito would never know. "I'm tired from all that I've learned, and I need to wash up from all the people I've killed recently." "So does Yakiru, just from being around me," said Kenpachi, as his clothing was covered in dried blood, with Yakiru only partially since she came in contact with him. "One of the many reasons I chose this spot was because I could have my own indoor hot spring here without the prying eyes of a possible pervert peeping on me. It's down the hall and to the second to last door on your left. Leave your clothes outside the door and I'll wash them for you," said Rin, pointing to the direction of her little personal indoor hot spring. "Thanks, Doggy-chan," said Yakiru, waving at the woman before the girl vanished from view from the slightly ticked Inuzuka and the snickering Nibi demon vessel. "Something tells me she's not going to give up in calling you that nickname," said Yugito, smirking at the woman in front of her, who had several red tick-like marks on the corner of her face before she developed her own smirk. "Better than being called Pussy-chan," said Rin, seeing the other woman's face grow red and hiss like a cat, while soon after muttering to herself how degrading her nickname was before she looked at Rin and they laughed. However, it ended soon, as Rin asked Yugito the serious question that needed answering for the self-exiled Inuzuka. After Yugito explained to her what Kenpachi had told her and his plans to remove the Mizukage and the daimyo before he left to create his own ninja village, Rin understood just how horrible Konoha had gotten since her departure. "Kakashi, you stupid fool, how can you do this to Sensei's son? You knew that our sensei would rather rip off his own arm before sacrificing any other child in the village. If only you weren't so ego-driven by your own legend, you would have seen that the Yondaime never approved of your Chidori, because once unleashed it can kill almost anyone fatally. And for what? All because you couldn't make the Rasengan like he could and wanted to make your own version of it, only to make the Chidori instead," thought Rin, knowing that if she did see Kakashi again she would knock him on his ass before doing many evil things to him. "When I was in Kumo during my early years as a child, the third Raikage kept me safe from the hatred of my people. He knew that as I grew up with the Nibi cat demon inside of me, I would be hated by all the people around me. He knew they would try to beat me, kill me, or worse if they ever got the chance. The Council of Kumo opposed this, saying I was a demon hell spawn that deserved to die for the sins of my container. However, the Sandaime Raikage would hear known of it and hired only his most trusted of Anbu to watch over me when he wasn't teaching me. He is the father I always wanted, and though my leaving him along with Kuma will break his aging heart, I left him a letter telling him I could not work with his successor no matter the circumstances, said Yugito, knowing that if she stayed when the third retired her life would be the living hell she knew it would be. I want in on this, said Rin, abruptly turning completely to face the Nibi vessel, who was shocked by the boldness of the woman before her. What? Why? Said Yugito, looking at the Inuzuka like she grew a second head. For several reasons. 1. I want to help others, and despite what I'm doing now it's not helping the rest of the populace in this country. 2. I have a score to settle with my old teammate back in Konoha for what he did to our sensei's son, and there would be no better revenge than helping Uzumaki Kenpachi fulfill his dreams, said Rin before her lips curved into an evil smile that made even Yoruichi shiver slightly, knowing that this woman was going to keep her word in this. I'll tell Kenpachi when he finishes cleaning up with Yakiru in the hot spring, but for now I need to ask you something, said Yugito, getting a puzzled look from Rin. What's the question? Said Rin, wondering what the woman could possibly ask her now. Do you have any sake? Said Yugito, making Rin's face drop hard into the floor. Follow me, said Rin, getting off the ground heading towards the kitchen area, hoping none of her dishes, glasses, or even the sake itself was damaged. When Kenpachi and Yakiru came out of the hot spring an hour later, each wearing a long brownish-crimson robe, courtesy of Zangetsu, they saw their clothing was drying and clean-looking thanks to Rin. Thanks Rin-san, I'll make it up to you when I get the chance, said Kenpachi while the little fox girl Yakiru was inspecting her clothing before nodding her head at a job well done. Thank you Doggy-chan. Why made all the blood go away, said Yakiru, smiling a smile that would have made the sun jealous at such a thing. Thanks you Kenpachi and Yakiru. It is the least I could do after what has recently just happened and what I told you earlier about your heritage, said Rin, looking at the blonde, now naturally spiked-haired boy known as Uzumaki Kenpachi and wondering how a 12 to 13-year-old boy could grow so tall. I told her what we have planned and she wants in on the whole thing. Do you agree? Said Yugito, knowing this couldn't work without all parties agreeing on the same thing. Sure. The more the better, I always say. In fact, I was actually hoping that we would get another member in during our walk, as we'll need someone to become the new ruler of Water Country. You up for the task? Said Kenpachi, looking directly at Rin, who was shocked by this since the Inuzuka never saw herself as ruling material, as it was called. That's what her much older aunt Inuzuka soon said anyway, though she never did like. Her aunt always hated Namikaze-sensei ever since he humiliated her in that little ramen eating contest where Sume bet she could taste all there was in ramen better than future the Hokage of Konoha. Rin-sensei, seeing a chance to get back at the woman for calling the love of his life a red-haired bitch in heat when she thought he had been out of hearing range. The prank required the help of the young owner at the time, which after hearing the plan from the future Yondaime, put in a little something or other that when eaten makes dogs, or in this case those with a bloodline that connects them with dogs, go crazy with lust over her mate. Sume would deny it later as a running joke from Inoichi, but it was because of that little prank that helped Kiba become conceived later on that day. But that's a story for a later date. Well, when you put it that way Kenpachi-san, then I will happily accept your offer, said Rin, knowing that if she were in power as the daimyo she could help get the boy's dream fulfilled. Welcome aboard Rin-san, said Kenpachi, extending his hand, which Rin took, sealing the deal along with Yakiru jumping off of her father, and dancing around doing a cute little cheer with fox-like fans with, "Go Ken-chan" on each one. Ken-chan, Ken-chan, he's our man, if he can't do it no one can. Yay, Ken-chan, K to the E to the N to the chan, K to the E to the N to the chan. Go Ken-chan, go Ken-chan, ya, said Yakiru, finishing with a small jump into the air before landing gracefully on one foot. The trio before the girl at this point couldn't help but laugh themselves silly. Konoha 3 weeks later, Tsunade was reading her reports on all activity from her spies deep in the lands of the other elemental countries and additional information from Jiraiya's spy network. When that three-tailed fox had appeared before her in the council meeting room, she realized that Naruto's influence with the Kyuubi may have reached a level which was considered to a family bond, since the fox was said to never give a contract to anyone. Now, however, it appeared to Tsunade that Naruto surprised her yet again and did what no other person could do in the world of summoning animals. When she approached Jiraiya to summon one of his toads, he had refused, saying that if he did, he would have a lot of explaining to do to that toad, which would report to Gamabunta. The boss of the toads was upset as it was in having a super pervert as the summoner and would be even more pissed if he learned what Jiraiya told him concerning Naruto. It was no secret to Jiraiya that the boss toad respected Naruto for not backing down from him when that little bet he made with Gamabunta got underway. Not only that, but the giant toad's own kids respected Naruto and they had only been summoned on a rare few occasions. Not only that, but the summon's own network of passing on information was very complex in itself. Depending on how influential that summons was, it could cause a simple ripple or a shockwave of epic proportions throughout the summoning world and the human world. It was bad enough they already felt it in the human world as it is. Tsunade now found herself staring into the clear night sky at night, wondering where her precious little brother had gone and what exactly had happened to him on his journey so far. Without Naruto, the Leaf Village seemed almost hollow or empty inside, and the light he created was now seemingly lost forever. Naruto's real power, it seemed, was to be able to pierce through self-doubts, the self-pity others give themselves, and the faults he finds in others, only to use such things to draw out one's true potential. You made other people's heavy burdens lighter by using your own as a counterbalance so they could have the strength to lift it. If only Sarutobi had taken care of you better, then this wouldn't have happened, thought Tsunade, opening her desk, getting out some sake she had stored away for days like these when she felt like crying, and did. Tsunade-sama, I have a response from the Fire Daimyo, said Shizune, opening the door to the Hokage's office to see her teacher, who was just moments away from drinking what would soon be many cups of sake and getting stone-cold drunk. Give it to me, I need to know what his answer is, said Tsunade, hoping for some good news for once. It was one of those very rare times that she was thankful for Jiraiya having a large income when it came to his selling of those perverted books he writes. It was that single lifeline alone that had kept the Leaf Village from falling apart faster than it already had, and the social chaos that would have ensued. At the moment, though, despite the immense income Jiraiya was putting out to help keep Konoha afloat, it still wasn't enough, and such a well of a resource was bound to dry up sooner than later. It was the reason she sent a letter to the Fire Daimyo pleading her case to the man that without additional funding within the 3 years to come, Konoha could not properly hold the Chunin exams they were scheduled to hold soon. Tsunade had sent that letter out a little over 2 weeks prior, and only now was she getting a response when she could or should have gotten it within days. Whatever was stirring in the home of the Daimyo of Fire, it was either very good or even worse news than before. Dear Hokage-sama, I have heard your sincerest apologies on behalf of your village for the abuse that it has caused to the boy your people hated so much. I have also taken the time before writing this to speak to my advisors in regards to your wishes to have the necessary funding that is needed to host the Chunin exams. I have been well aware of the fact that it is again your turn to host the exam in your village a second time after the first one was ruined by the Sannin Orochimaru. Many of my advisors originally suggested I should cut off all ties to the Leaf altogether for disrespecting the Yellow Flash's dying wish for child to be seen as a hero. However, I was a dear friend of the late and wise third Hokage, who from what I understand had always been kind to the boy when your people were not. The very fact that I still give the necessary funds needed to stay alive, if just barely and mercifully, is a fact that should not leave your mind. Still, due to the growing chaos from the other countries around my own, I have no choice but to consider this matter and get back to you at a later date. As of now, the answer is neither yes nor is it a no, but rather I am currently contemplating the matter in regards to your village still being of use to me. I will send you some missions if just to give you a chance to stay afloat. However, I intend for them to be nothing higher than that of C-ranked missions, since anything else I give you would be too generous for your own good. Until I hear or see otherwise that Konoha has regained the will of fire that the third Hokage preached on about when I was younger, I will not increase Konoha's funding anytime soon until deemed necessary to help with the Chunin exams. However, I am not about to see those who secretly supported the boy go punished for my actions, so I will state this to you now. If any other hidden village, whether they are new or old, appears and agrees that you should be given more funding, then I will increase the amount by 30%. No more, no less. Give my regards to the Sandame's grandson, Daimyo of Fire. Damn, said Tsunade, sighing afterwards and sitting back in her chair, finding it useless to try to pound her desk into oblivion at the Fire Daimyo's response, since replacing them had become just too damn expensive on their already thin budget. I take it that he's not going to help us, said Shizune, knowing that the village had a lot of sins to pay for that no one wanted to pay. It was like Tsunade's gambling problem, only now it was nearly on a village-wide scale. Shizune's worst nightmare now coming to life, only in a more serious fashion. Yep, who would have thought Naruto would have made such an important impact on those around him like this? Not only that, but from Jiraiya's spy network was able to produce is that Naruto is now in water country of all places, and my little brother now goes under the name of Kenpachi, said Tsunade, making her and Shizune shudder at the sound of that name, as it sounded like someone who would enjoy killing just for the fun of it. Isn't there anything else you can do, Tsunade-sama, to compel or convince the Lord of Fire to give Konoha the necessary funding? Said Shizune, wondering if her teacher and one person left of her family in the village that could try to keep it afloat. Not unless you know any hidden village that will back us up in our time of need and support our efforts to get more money to fund Konoha, said Tsunade, wishing she could make that miserable man of a former sensei Hatake Kakashi pay, but couldn't due to his special status as a member on the council. If we were to get Naruto to come back, I'm sure we could show him not everyone hates him like he thinks they do, said Shizune, knowing that despite all that had happened she wanted to show the boy that there were people who still cared. I would have better luck at the casinos than trying my hand in that attempt, said a tired-sounding Tsunade, wishing to herself that her luck was better so she could try and find him. Demonic realm of limbo. The figure felt as if he were weightless in an ocean as he looked up into the clouds in the sky, wondering where he was for the 15th time that day, night, or whatever time it was in this place. 1 minute he was fighting that strange drunken fist taijutsu fighter named Rock Lee, and then that sand kid named Subaku no Gara later on. Then before he was about to claim victory, his body gave out after using the last of his chakra to use his most deadliest of attacks. When he died, he felt his soul leave his body, though only partially, as part of him wanted to stay, wondering if his lord and master, the snake Sannin Orochimaru, was able to retrieve that Uchiha kid. It was why, despite him dying, the albino Sound 4 member truly refused to be dead just yet, wanting to return to his master and serve him if just one more time. It wasn't until a few days later that he showed up and took him from the world he knew, telling him that death could not touch him yet, for his power was still needed. And now here he was, the former member of the Sound 4, in a place that was neither heaven nor hell, though it looked closer to the latter. You're awake again, I see, said Zangetsu, appearing before the albino-looking boy only a few years older than the one who was his vessel. Why am I here? You never told me when I asked you originally, said the boy, looking up at the crimson-robed figure, who just looked down upon the hovering warrior. You are here because my vessel, that is Uzumaki Kenpachi, wants you to live and fight for him like you did for Orochimaru. He saw how loyal you were to the snake Sannin, even though you were not corrupted like the others were with the curse seal on your chest, which I also removed before taking you here, said Zangetsu, seeing the boy before him open his eyes wide at such information. I can't betray my master. He gave me a purpose when I had none, said the albino, as he wished to stay loyal to the snake Sannin despite the fact that had he been healthy, his body was only to be used in keeping Orochimaru alive for another 3 years. Instead of trying to save your life or heal you, Orochimaru moved on to simply go and find another body he could attach onto. Face it, boy, your former master is a parasite that leeches off the life of others and needs to be put out of his misery before he can cause further harm to others. The only reason he kept you around was because you could still fight until you died from your lung condition, which I might add I removed from your lungs, said Zangetsu, lifting a finger and rotating the white-haired boy up until standing upright in front of the fox demon. You healed my lungs. I was told by Orochimaru-sama that Kabuto could not do such a thing with his medical expertise, said the shocked albino, who saw Zangetsu shake his head at the Nave former Sound Ninja. By humans' hands, yes. But as you can see, I am not human, said Zangetsu, knowing there were arts of healing known only to demons to such diseases of the lungs. Nothing is for free, and with saving my life comes a price. What is the price of my newly restored life that I must pay? Said the boy, knowing that whatever it was, he would have to do it. I have spent some time looking into your memories while you slept, and I have seen your devotion to Orochimaru and how your loyalty to him was on a fanatical level. You would happily end your life if need be to let him live a second time if ordered to by him. That is the kind of loyalty that I want from you, boy. That is the type of loyalty I want you to give my vessel and your new master when he commands to follow his orders, no matter what they may be, said Zangetsu, knowing that if this former warrior of the snake agreed to serve Kenpachi, it would make him a servant of the fox. A fanatically loyal servant at that. Very well. Orochimaru may have given me a purpose in life when I was pressed for time, but you and your vessel have given me a new chance at life. A chance to possibly rebuild my clan from the very ashes of its near ruin from all the fighting they did in Mist. So from this day forward until the day I die, I hereby pledge my undying loyalty to you and Uzumaki Kenpachi, said the albino, earning a satisfied nod from Zangetsu. Good. I am the Fox Demon Lord Zangetsu, and when you are healed properly you are going to go back with me to Mist, said Zangetsu, seeing the boy look at him with fear due to the past history he had with that village. May I ask why, Zangetsu-sama? Said Kimimaro, wondering why one of his new masters would send him back to such a hellish place. It's quite simple. We are going back to Mist to fix the problems there before we leave with my vessel and make our own hidden village. One that will rain down his fire and vengeance upon all those who have wronged my vessel and have made him suffer, said Zangetsu, telling the boy everything he needed to know about Kenpachi's life and the betrayal by Hitaki Kakashi. Good. Now tell me your name, said Zangetsu, wanting that to be the first order given to the boy before him. My name is Kagaya Kimimaro Zangetsu-sama, and my new life is yours to command, as you see fit, said Kimimaro, bowing his head, though with some slight difficulty. Good answer. I expect nothing less than good things from your revival, Kimimaro. Now sleep and rest you, as you still have some healing to do before we can head to Mist, said Zangetsu, waving his hand over the albino's face, making the sad boy fall asleep. After Kenpachi takes care of Water Country, you're next to go, Orochimaru, and what better way to kill you than by the hands of your most loyal now former bodyguard to end your miserable existence, thought Zangetsu, smirking, knowing he was going to enjoy seeing the Sannin die. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as well as checking out the author on fanfiction.net.